Welcome to LC Screen Talk. My name is Larry, and this is the latest video in our series, Overhyped, Underrated. A series in which I'm joined for each video by a special guest as we give our picks for 5 films that were either overhyped or underrated within a specific genre. Quick disclaimer, of course, all opinions and thoughts within this video are just our own. We're obviously going against the grain here, so they may not be all that popular, but they're just how we feel. But of course, I'm definitely looking forward to hearing everybody else's thoughts and opinions in that comment section down below. Today, I am joined by my friend Alex Madden as we discuss the most overhyped and underrated biopics of all time. So, Alex, go ahead and take us away.
Hey there guys, my name is Alex and I want to thank Larry for letting me come on his channel. I'm hoping you're all quarantined. Me, I'm growing a 350-foot beard because there's no barbershops open and this is going to be my caveman beard for quarantine. With that being said, again I want to thank Larry for bringing me on to Rotten Tomatoes Got It Wrong. This is an episode where we are going to be talking about biopics. If you already don't know that, and I'm just going to get started right off the bat with my 5 for what I think Rotten Tomatoes got wrong. And I'm going to start with one that actually got critical acclaim, and that is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs has an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, and for me, Steve Jobs, I thought it was fine. This is a movie that I'm very mixed on. While I think the performances are great, I think the directing is great by Aaron Sorkin. Aaron Sorkin's actually really good as a director, and Fassbender gives it his all as Steve Jobs. I just don't really like the structure of the movie. I appreciate how it breaks normal biopic cliches and formula, but it was just the way it was structured just didn't really wrap me into these events. It didn't really get me all that interested in Steve Jobs' past and his memories in life and him reflecting on his life before these 3 Apple launches. And I just gotta say too, this is really just a 3-act movie because it's 3 Apple launches for products and each product serves as an act, and I think that that's kind of a cop-out, honestly. So the structure for it and the fact that it's just a straightforward 3-act movie and it's so easy to pick up where those acts are, don't really do it for me with this movie. My next pick on this list is Bohemian Rhapsody. It's got a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. In all honesty, I think it should be higher. The PG-13 rating excluded. There's conversations out there that this movie should have been rated R, but I think the PG-13 rating actually worked. When it comes to Bohemian Rhapsody, the last 20 to 30 minutes is just Queen reincarnated, and it was quite a sight to see, especially for somebody who didn't get to witness Live Aid when it first aired in the 80s. And I gotta say, Rami Malek as Freddie Mercury brings an average biopic to life, and it extends this biopic into greatness. Rami Malek is Freddie Mercury himself. I don't even think I was watching Rami Malek. I felt like I was watching Freddie Mercury back from the dead in his own movie. And the thing I like about this is that, yes, this movie is a biopic about Queen, but at the core of it, it is Freddie Mercury, front and center. And I just think the critics got it wrong. It does feel a bit by the numbers, I understand, but sometimes that's really all you need from movies. My third pick is a biopic about a war veteran, and that is Unbroken. It stands at 51% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just don't understand why. This is a very emotional, inspiring, uplifting story that I think was just a bit too slow for people, and I think a lot of people took their preconceived notions about Angelina Jolie into this movie, as her previous directorial effort was very controversial, but I think she really gets the best out of all the actors in this movie. She tells a story that needs to be told, and while the slow pace may bother some, slow and steady wins the race for me in a movie like this, because there's so much that happens in the second half of this movie, and without the slow build of the first half of the movie, you wouldn't have what happens in the second half of this movie, and you wouldn't have the momentum that the second half has in terms of trying to tell its story. And I think that this is a very well-realized story and an important story that needed to be told. On the other end of the spectrum, my number 4 pick is Darkest Hour. This is at 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I just don't see it. This movie put me to sleep. I couldn't get into it. It didn't interest me. I mean, Gary Oldman, yes, is great as Winston Churchill, but other than that, I don't know. I just wasn't that interested. These historical biopic dramas, maybe they're just not for me, about a historical figure, an important political figure. That's why I've kind of held off on watching Vice, because I'm like, I really don't know if I'm going to really get into Vice. But it just didn't do it for me. I couldn't get into it. The costume design was great. The set design was great. But other than that, like, I don't know. I don't know what it was with Darkest Hour. Just couldn't do it. My number 5 pick sits at 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I totally disagree with that. And that is the biopic and historical epic war drama, Alexander. Oh, wait, hold on. I picked Alexander. Okay, hold on. Hear me out. I'm not just picking this because Alexander is my name. The thing is here is that the theatrical cut of this movie isn't very good. The director's cut is better, I think, in some ways. The Alexander Revisited cut, I think, is good. I think it's a fine movie, but if you watch the ultimate cut, the final cut, the one that I have on Blu-ray, this movie is pretty good. I would say even better than the Revisited cut. This is a movie that I think people just think is too long, was released in a time where obviously we know that Alexander the Great had some relationships both with men and females, and I don't think people at the time could accept that we were getting a movie about a historical figure who was gay. And I think people took that into an effect here, and I think they just kind of looked at Oliver Stone and was like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, yeah, this movie is long. The ultimate cut is like 3 hours and 26 minutes, and there's a lot of downtime in this movie, but it really gives you a well-rounded view, despite its historical inaccuracies, as to who Alexander the Great was, while showing you 2 of his greatest battles. And that battle at the beginning in Macedonia, that thing's like probably 20 minutes long. That's a great battle, well directed, well filmed. I think that this movie is very underrated. So guys, those are my 5 picks for Rotten Tomatoes Got It Wrong. I want to thank Larry again for having me on the show. If you guys like this content, I'll have Larry leave my link to my website in the description below, and you can head over to my channel, just Alex Madden. You guys are the best. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much, Alex, for joining me to discuss some biopics here on the channel. I've known Alex for quite some time now. We were supposed to have met each other, actually, at a Boston Comic Con recently. It didn't work out, but one of these days. He's a great friend here online, and I'm so glad we finally found a way to collab. I'm so happy to have you here to discuss these biopics. If you are not already, make sure you head on over and subscribe to Alex Madden here on YouTube, and make sure that you go over and follow him on Twitter as well. He has great film reviews as well as other movie related content that you don't want to miss out on. All of those links, of course, will be in the description below. So biopics. This was actually one of the more difficult categories for this series. I have to say, I generally enjoy a good biopic, and I don't find them overrated all that often. And the ones that get ravaged by critics, most of the time, I agree. So in this one, it was difficult to really nitpick and decide on the biopics. I didn't go with the crowd on. I'm going to start off with one I've already discussed here on the channel. And we're starting off with Overhyped and The Social Network. The story on how Facebook came to be following good old Mike Zuckerberg himself. I know the script is snappy, it's witty, pretty well put together, especially from a storytelling perspective. My problem here is that it's just so clinical, which is part of the intent here, especially when it comes to Mike Zuckerberg. However, the script just lacks any sort of humanity. It really lacks a lot of insight rather than just retelling. I don't think it goes any further than that. And honestly, all of that led to me getting quite bored through stretches of this movie. For an outside perspective, I certainly understand why it received the positive reviews it did. I just don't agree with them. And yeah, I think it's overhyped. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, with the film I think is underrated and has a whole lot of heart to it, I have Patch Adams. The real life Patch Adams hates this movie and had a lot of harsh words for Robin Williams himself up until his time of death, and then he eased up on those criticisms. But I think Patch Adams is a serviceable film that really conveys the emotions it wants. Yeah, it's a little bit syrupy. It lays it on a little bit thick as we move through. But Robin Williams gives a great performance. I thought he really delivered in this role. He's infectious, he's so easy to love, and it's a really uplifting, beautiful story to be told. And I just think people were far too cynical. I know, that's coming from me. But but it stands. I think people were far too cynical when it came to Patch Adams, and I think it deserved some more praise than it received. My next overhyped biopic actually is coming from a more recent year, and that is Black Mass, the Johnny Depp mobster biopic. At the time it was released, I gave it a mildly positive review, and I'm still kind of there, but this was just a film that instantly left my mind. It doesn't really offer anything new. It doesn't give us a great mobster film. It doesn't really even give us a great insight to Whitey Bulger. Johnny Depp gives an okay performance, but honestly, the makeup and the prosthetics and everything they put on him were more distracting than helpful, and he wasn't able to really tap into the deeper parts of the characters. So I think his performance also was a bit overpraised. And really, there's no big standouts in the film. The script is okay, though feels surface level. And there's always some deeper issues with these mobster films, particularly with the government and with some behind the scenes dealings and corrupt politicians that we know were definitely at play here that we just don't even touch at all. It's very surface level, it doesn't dive deep enough, and I don't think it's actually all that great. As for my next underrated film on the list, I'm going with Jarhead, the Jake Gyllenhaal soldier biopic. This is actually one of the more effective war films for me because it is such a personal, human-focused movie really depicting the toll that war takes on this man. Jake Gyllenhaal gives an amazing performances, as do everybody in this film. I actually think it's stock full of really strong performances. I think this script, unlike Black Masses, does delve deeper. It gives us the lighter side, it gives us the war moments, yet it also gives us the human moments that you're really looking for here. Exciting, it is funny, it is ridiculous, but overall I think it's a much better film than its overall critical consensus would tend to point toward. Plus, if I'm being honest, it gets some bonus points for that Jake Gyllenhaal Santa hat scene, a classic. And then my final overhyped biopic is Frost Nixon. Of course, this was a major play on award season, the year it came out, depicting what happened with President Nixon. Now, this is a case pretty similar actually to The Social Network, where I can understand why it has the critical consensus it does. It is a well executed film for all intents and purposes. However, it just lacks interest. It lacks warmth, humanity. It lacks any sort of relatability, honestly. I find Frost Nixon to be one of those cases of just straight up Oscar bait biopic, where it's put together well, it's made nicely, and shoved out to go and win awards, nothing more. It didn't really offer me anything new I needed to know, any great insight. It just was a long clinical interview session is what it feels like by the end of it, and I just was never on board with it. So those are my picks as well as Alex's picks for the most overhyped and underrated biopics of all time. What do you think of the films we selected? And more importantly, we want to hear the biopics you would categorize as overhyped and underrated. Leave all your selections in the comment section down below, or you can hit either one of us up on Twitter. And make sure that you are subscribing to Alex Madden's YouTube channel, as well as following him over on Twitter for great film-related content. And while you're here, make sure to hit that like button if you like this video, and subscribe to the channel so you are always up to date on my latest videos, including every new video in this series. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!